91. Listen to the most critical 10-minute message in human history to save 8 billion and your family. Brazil's President Bolsonaro, corrupt sponsor of rainforest destroyers, is gone. President Da Silva has returned to successfully slow new miners and farmers' forest cutting and burning, which, if allowed a few more decades, would destroy most of this giant Amazon wood, leaf, and soil CO2 repository. Similar human killing of the Congo's second biggest rainforest and other great forests around the world will negate and reverse the million environmentalists' vaunted essential goal and plan: net zero human emissions by 2050, doomed instead by net human destruction, vast dead tree and barren soil release of CO2 into our already fatally overstuffed stratosphere. So just halting commercial forest killing would save humanity's bacon and your kids too, right? Wrong. President Biden just held a news conference outdoors in front of the Brazilian rainforest. He bragged on Da Silva's rescue and pledged another $50 million to help. Did any viewers get a look at the bank of trees behind him? Uncut, not burned. Just wilted, barren, and dying of the same 25-year, 6-continent drought stressing most trees on Earth. NPR interviewed Brazilians reporting the ever-lowering level of the Amazon, always before history's giant river number one. The entire basin's tributaries and trees are disappearing also. Progressive, permanent dearth of regular rainfall has turned the entire lush rainforest to doomed drought forest. None of our environment rescue directors realize that wise enough refusal to cut down or burn another tree anywhere on Earth won't by itself buy doomed humanity one more day alive. World forest drought death will still very soon kill most humans, animals, and plants outside of scattered coastal flood zones. Why? Life lives on water and food. Both gone. Bye-bye. Peak 2024 CO2 emissions, relentlessly risen 30% since 2000, have already lowered regular rainfall below stable, much less full river and lake volume. 2/3 of humanity today runs short of water. Expert idiots imagine that stopping wastage, patching leaky pipes, and recycling wastewater will let plunging lakes refill. With less rain every year? Wake up, fools! Even this certain doom is not 10% of our crisis. But first, a modicum of good news. Peak 2024 emissions will hit the zenith and begin declining in 2025, thanks to massive new green solar and wind energy acceleration. My previous analyses warn, however, that huge CO2 human emissions, ideally lowering to net human zero by 2050, nevertheless still enormously increase stratosphere totals in the meantime, overheating and drying our Earth further. Least of our troubles. We're 10 years deep now into forest drought death. Only my common sense, not research expertise, tells me that world forests struggling to live now through ever-worsening drought could massively die over 15 more even drier years. The experts, not I, tell us exactly what happens then. Every dead log, leaf, and empty parched acre of dirt will vent to the stratosphere 500% more than 2024's already fatally high CO2 emissions. World regular rain would then plunge hyper-fast from arid menace to Death Valley's 1 inch a year. Then your 10 million bucks and assault gun army will only grab you 12 months more bottled water and canned beans before you join the other 8 billion corpses. We could advance on the technical track to restore enough rain, but only after 100 years full operation of 5,000 CO2 air scrubber factories. Problem is, for the last 85 years, nobody would be alive to run them. Now I'm scaring you. Maybe you, or even billions of yous, can't save the world and your family. But don't despair. I just needed your full attention. Back in the year 2000, farms all over the world were drought doomed. Thousands did die, but even more were saved. The difference? Increased irrigation from rivers not yet gone. It'll take some doing, but our movement begins and ends by watering forests before they will die and kill us. We'll have to also massively increase farm irrigation from non-regular rain sources. Billions will starve if we don't. Only you, world-booming 2 gigantic projects, saves the world. First, Professor Tukor has for decades designed huge metal or plastic sheets erected over hot, steaming coastal oceans. Massive water vapor, utterly fresh, condenses and runs into shore-bound pipes. Such complexes could water the coastal 40% of humanity through every dry spell. For all other full continental water rescues, we'll need the second great idea, way too obvious to originate with me. That same hot coastal steam, the last 30 years, rose up to massive soggy clouds, often dumping 20-inch 2-day to 2-week floods just inland. After ruining crops, homes, and entire cities, they're gone. Instead, we gotta catch and use that precious water. Along the several hundred most regular, if intermittent, flood-prone areas around the world, position giant pipes below every river's flood rise level. Raging cataracts flow will power several-mile delivery. Except a thirsting and starving world must receive hundreds of thousands of miles of powered uphill delivery. Piece of cake! Just convert every war dollar on earth to building 1 million miles of pipe, 10 million electric motors, spinning 10 million propellers, powered by 20 million big solar panels. And don't forget the soaker hoses for every dying crop furrow and forest tree trunk. All this will not be a fourth of the weaponeers' massive endeavor, the thousands of factories, hundreds of millions of weapons, trillions of dollars projects to kill not far from 1 million a year in today's 49 wars. Let's redirect their damn factories to build rescue, not murder machinery, which my peace designer betters actually have a labeled plan for: conversion. All we need, start to finish, are the killers' misappropriated trillions of dollars. My 100 speeches rarely pause from this legal war for peace and environmental rescue for survival. Only your treaty snatches that money from your own damn taxes that the weapons companies have always bribed nearly every government to fork over to them. Start by asking your leaders nicely to help. They'll all say, "Screw you, we've got ours." Then your efforts, like my speeches, must get longer, more directed and detailed. Hang with our human rights, rescues, and laws themes. Never stop and never give up. Sue and campaign to outlaw all private gifts to leaders. Brainstorm our treaty to destroy weapons worldwide. Change laws and leaders until we do it. Win our ultimate treaty fast. Border defenses only. All savings directed to new water sources delivered to trees, crops, and people. At Senile 71, I get to repeat my favorite story yet again. Around 5000 BC, God looked down at farmers all over the world, recruited by kings and nobles to tramp off to war, leaving their crops to rot, water wheels to break, and women and children to starve. He had created us to love, not hate, care for, not abandon most, and rescue our brothers, sisters, and children, not torture and kill them. So he got real mad and thought real hard. He came up with a specific war to peace conversion order and project, technical specs and all. Thou shalt pound thy swords into plowshares. Speaking of starvation, Netanyahu's second year of deliberate food, water, and medicine siege of 2.3 million Palestinians in occupied and relentlessly bombed Gaza has steadily accelerated to 100% cut off this aid-dependent, now forever ruined wasteland. After 100 days of allowing in zero aid trucks during a massive, protracted all-Gaza bombardment and invasion, Biden demanded that he let in a few convoys. Never mind the 1,000 daily trucks they'll need for years to just survive. Since all UN aid workers providing the aid have been outlawed by the Israeli Prime Minister, his army greeted the dozens arriving to provide drivers and security by murdering them all. The armed gangs, starving like everyone else, stole all of the relief trucks and their loads. The Israel Defense Forces, having proven themselves capable of killing 8,000 heavily armed and deeply hidden Hamas fighters, weirdly proved utter inability, actually unwillingness to defend and distribute the aid that worldwide law requires them to render to their civilian war victims, including American law prohibiting our weaponization of proxies who don't. Not a single week of the last 60 has gone by without loud pronouncements throughout Israel's war government that relentless bombing of schools, hospitals, remaining apartment buildings, and the refugee camps they were ordered into, the permanent homelessness of millions, and total cutoff of their food, water, power, and medicine, they all bring on themselves by failing to force Hamas surrender and return of the fraction of hostages not bombed and starved to death by Israel Defense Forces, who had failed to post a single sentry in the way of the Hamas invasion they knew for a full year was trained for on that border. I insist that my listeners in every nation tell America to take every bestial bomb back and condition its defense-only military and financial aid on fully allowing and guarding delivery to all of Gaza of 1,000 aid trucks daily during the year that your movement demands demilitarization of both Arab and Jewish forces abusing Gaza. without weapons aimed in or out, Gaza's self-rule, by already nearly unanimous UN and regional consensus, would threaten no one and end the insane 70-year feud and war. My speeches never stop detailing why and how war profiteers are ending humanity, and the exact laws only you, never the totally corrupted jackals now in charge, must win to stop them and save us all. Our survival, love, happiness, peace, and future come down to one thing: your political, legal action. To stop harm, to help, to save us all. Go now. Never stop.